a very special presentation to a very special benefactress of the Oscar Wilde Society. My name is indeed Giles Brandreth. I'm excited to be here, particularly in the presence of the editor of the Wildean, who knows so much and is so brilliant. If you know our journal, you will know what an extraordinary journal it is, and it's down to the quality of the leadership it has. Though he seems to know nothing, because I heard him saying a moment ago that Oscar Wilde was not known to play an instrument. I seem to recall seeing the recent Rupert Everett film, where Oscar Wilde was at the honky-tonk piano playing, I think, Ta-ra-ra Boom-die. Who knows what really happened. We like these myths as they evolve. It's been a very exciting Oscar Wilde week for many of us, culminating in tonight, when we're going to have two speakers later who really are very special indeed. And I hope during the course of the evening, as they walk among you, you will do your best to touch their garb. But do so with permission. I was in Chelsea on Wednesday because I helped Christopher Frayling with the unveiling of the sculpture by Edoardo Paolozzi that is now on the King's Road. And to Dove House Green, where it is, I walked via Tite Street, where 70 years ago the plaque was unveiled commemorating Oscar and Constance's time living in Tite Street. And that plaque was to be unveiled by Sir John Gielgud, but because of unfortunate circumstances at the time, it fell eventually to Sir Compton Mackenzie to unveil the plaque on that occasion. What it was that led to Christopher Frayling and I being the people who unveiled the sculpture on Wednesday, we don't know. But maybe somebody 70 years from now will invent a good story about it. I hope so. John Gielgud was somebody that I was lucky enough to know. He really loved and understood the works of Oscar Wilde, and as you know, directed and appeared in memorable productions. Michelle and I were lucky enough to know Sir John, and this is a birthday party, and I was thinking as I came up the stairs of the memorable 80th birthday, that party that we hosted for him. And this was, well, it would have been 1984, when he was 80 years of age, on the stage of the Old Vic. And I had to have a cake brought on. I wanted a cake presentation of some kind to Sir John. I thought a cake would be appropriate, and I thought I must get somebody interesting to bring it on. And there were all sorts of possibilities with actresses of different vintages, none of whom seemed to me to have the strength required to bring on this quite substantial cake. And then I had this brilliant idea. Our children were then at a nursery school with a famous American actor's children. And the American actor was Christopher Reeve, who you may recall played Superman in the Superman films. He was enormously tall, incredibly handsome, and a delightful person. Tragically, he had a horse riding accident and he died prematurely. But he was then at the height of his fame, and he was wonderful. And so I approached him and I said, would you mind bringing on the cake? So here we are on the stage of the Old Vic, and I now say, Sir John, this is the moment when we're going to make this presentation to you. It is going to be a birthday cake. And on came Christopher Reeve holding this beautiful birthday cake. And Sir John Gielgud turned to me and said, oh, Giles, Superman, you've thought of everything. Tonight, it is my great honor to present to Joan Winchell this citation on behalf of the Oscar Wilde Society, in which we say how greatly indebted we are to her. We've had a mutually beneficial relationship with her for a number of years, and this is culminated in her amazing benefaction, which is making the publication of The Woman's World, edited by Oscar Wilde, possible. If it wasn't for her, this wouldn't be happening. And what is wonderful about it is because of her generosity, we can maintain standards. The quality of the paper, the typeface, the printing, the illustrations, it's all first class. And that's what Joan has made possible. She is a first-class human being. And I'm going to ask her to step forward to receive this wonderful citation. And not only that, we have managed to go to the schoolroom at the top of the building. And from the schoolroom, we have produced this extraordinary portrait of Joan. We are thrilled that this has been painted by Antonia Eindhoven. Those who are interested in theatre will know that the theatre collection of the Victoria and Albert Museum is based on the collection of Gabrielle Eindhoven that she donated to the Victoria and Albert Museum. So this, what is wonderful about this is by an artist whose forebear actually has a direct connection with the world of Oscar Wilde, which makes it very exciting. We are all, as we make this presentation, we're either going to bow or curtsy to you. You are American.
I hope not.
I hope so. This is a British tradition. The reason I want us to do this is that I recently wrote a biography of our late Queen, Elizabeth II. And I met lots of people who knew Her Majesty. And one of the people I met was the equerry who was on duty on the day that Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister. And Mrs. Thatcher, our first woman Prime Minister, she went to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen. She arrived and was taken along the corridor to meet Her Majesty. And the equerry said to her, it was the equerry who told me this story, on the way, he said, "You're going to meet Her Majesty now for the first time as Prime Minister, Mrs. Thatcher. It's customary to curtsy to Her Majesty. Not essential by any means. The Queen won't even notice one way or another." But Mrs. Thatcher interrupted and said, "Oh, I'm certainly planning to curtsy. I have been practicing my curtsy. Rest assured, I will be curtsying." So they go into the room, and there is the Queen, which is what made me think of this. There is the Queen seated there, and the equerry steps forward and says, "Your Majesty, the Prime Minister, Your Majesty." At which point, Mrs. Thatcher steps forward and executes the most gracious curtsy you can imagine. Margaret Thatcher, the first woman Prime Minister of this country, goes right down to the ground in this beautiful full curtsy. Mrs. Thatcher goes right down to the ground with this curtsy, right down to the ground, where she stays. She throws a desperate glance towards the equerry, who comes beetling over and tries to lift her up, but is unable to do so. So from the other side, Her Majesty the Queen gets up from her chair, comes over, and lifts up Mrs. Thatcher. So that is a true story of how Margaret Thatcher's time as our Prime Minister began. You stay where you are. We are just so thrilled that we have found in you such a true friend. You have been a friend to us and to the memory and to the genius of Oscar Wilde. It is for that reason that I present you with this citation, which we hope you will keep and treasure, and with this portrait of you. Round of berserk applause. Those men now bow. That's very good. Well done, Joan. Do you wish to speak or just blow a kiss at the crowd? Joan has invited me to blow a kiss at the crowd. So this is Joan's kiss from her lips to my lips to your hearts. Because we are really so grateful to you. Well done, Joan. Thank you so much. She is saying it has been her pleasure. You are our St. Joan. But you were pleased to know that it's a chocolate mousse and not a flambé later this evening. So what happens now is that we... am I right?
I just need to say, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to Gyles for making the presentation.
Oh, good.
On a personal note, this is the biggest and the most complex book I've ever worked on, and it wouldn't have been possible had I not known that I had Joan's total support at every stage. As soon as I brought up the idea of reprinting some of these articles from the Woman's World, Joan completely got it. She was fully behind the project, and without her, we would not have had this beautiful book. But as well as being a beautiful book, it is also a major contribution to Wildean scholarship because of the fantastic amount of work Eleanor has put into it. This book has over 1,100 footnotes, enough for several more books. When Eleanor told me that she was going to write biographical notes of all the contributors, I thought, well, good luck with that, because most of them are completely unknown nowadays. And then she told me she was going to write biographical notes of the illustrators. And I thought, you are joking. These people weren't even known in their lifetime. But she has done all of that. She's found images of these people, and she's really illuminated the importance of those 2 years Oscar spent editing The Woman's World. And finally, I must thank my friend Mike Malpas, who's with us tonight. Mike, where are you? Put your hand up. Where is, here he is. Yes. Mike is a craft printer in the tradition of William Morris. His company, Hampton Printing, is the last printer left in this country which can print and bind art books, because that whole sector of the market has gone to China and Turkey. But Mike is not giving up. He is going to keep the flag flying. So good luck to you, Mike. And can we have a round of applause for everyone?